So I have my 2 strands of my weight 4 worsted yarn. For row 1, I'm going to start with a slip knot. I'm going to chain 8. In the third chain from the hook, so that's 1, 2, 3, I'm going to place a single crochet. And I'm going to place another single crochet in the next 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and 4. That leaves me with 1 stitch left. And in this last stitch, I'm going to do 3 single crochets all in the same stitch. That's 1, 2, and 3. Now that turns me on the other side of the chain. And on the other side of the chain, I'm going to work 5 single crochets. So I already have this stitch here. So this is my next stitch. So I'm going to do 5 single crochets. And then I'm also going to weave in my tail as I go. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's 5. And in that last stitch, which is kind of hard to see, that first stitch, I'm going to do 5 single crochets in the next stitch. So that's like right here. I'm going to place 5 single crochets in this next stitch. And in this very last stitch, I'm going to place my stitch marker. At the end of this row, you should have 18 stitches. So if you're not sure, just go ahead and count. Make sure you have 18 stitches. Six, 17, 18. That count leaves me with 18 stitches. Make sure at the end of each row you want to add your stitch marker because we are not slip stitching to join. So once you start working, you really won't know where the start of your row is. So please make sure at the end of each row or round to place your stitch marker in that very last stitch. For row 2, we are going to do 6 single crochets. Oops, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And in the next stitch, we're going to place 3 single crochets in that same stitch. It's kind of hard. It's 1, 2, 3. And we're going to do 6 single crochets in the next 6 stitches. Oh, I'm sorry, a single crochet in the next 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That leaves us with 5 stitches left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in these last 5 stitches, we're going to do increases. So an increase is 2 single crochets in each stitch. So in each stitch, do 2 single crochets in the last 5 stitches. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then my last stitch is where my stitch marker is, but I take that out, do my last increase. And I'm going to put that stitch marker right back in so I don't forget in the very last stitch. So at the end of this row, you should have 25 stitches. Row 3, I'm going to do 7 single crochets. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to do 3 single crochets in the next stitch in the same stitch. So 3 single crochets. And then 7 single crochets in the next stitches. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, until we get until the end of our row, we are going to repeat this pattern. 1 single crochet increase, 1 single crochet, 1 increase, 1 single crochet, and so forth until we get to the end of our row. So I'm going to do an increase, which is 2 single crochets in the same stitch, and then 1 single crochet. Repeat this pattern all the way around. Removing my stitch marker, and this will be my last single crochet. And I'm putting it right back. Okay, so at the end of row 3, you should have 32 stitches. Okay, so row 4, we're going to do 7 single crochets. And in the next 3 stitches, we're going to do increases. So that's 1 increase, it's 2 increase, 3 increase. Then we're going to do 8 single crochets. 2, in the next one, we're going to do a pattern repeat of 1 increase and 2 single crochets. 1 increase, 2 single crochets. We're going to repeat that for 4 times. So we'll start with our increase, and then 2 single crochets. That's 1. Increase, 2 single crochets. That's 2. Increase, 2 single crochets. That's 3. Increase, and 2 single crochets, and we have 2 stitches left. 1, 2, then we get our stitch marker. We're going to do 1 increase and 1 single crochet. And this last single crochet goes where your stitch marker is. And place that stitch marker right back in your last stitch. At the end of this row, you should have a total of 40 stitches. For row 5, we're going to do 7 single crochets. Oops, let me close that up. 7 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're going to do a pattern repeat of 1 increase, 1 single crochet for 3 times. So 1 increase, 1 single crochet. That's 1. 1 increase, 1 single crochet. That's 2. 1 increase, 1 single crochet. That's 3. Then we're going to do 9 single crochets. And we're going to do another pattern of 1 increase, then 3 single crochets. We're going to do that for a total of 4 times. 1 increase, 3 single crochets. This is my increase, then 3 single crochets. 1, 2, 3. That's 1. Increase. That's 2. Increase. That's 3. Increase. I have 2 stitches left. So I'm going to do another increase and 1 single crochet. Place your stitch marker back in that very last stitch. So at the end of row 5, you should have a total of 48 stitches. That's what our work is starting to look like. Starting to take shape. So for rows 6 and 7, we're just going to do single crochets around in each stitch. No increases or decreases. So rows 6 through 7, just going to do 1 single crochet around. Now meet you back at row 8. So welcome back. We are at row 8. Row 8, we're going to repeat this pattern going all the way around. And the pattern is 1 single crochet increase and then 7 single crochets. That pattern will take you to the very beginning or to the end of where your stitch marker is. So you're going to do 1 increase, then 7 single crochets. Increase, 7 single crochets. Increase. Just going to repeat this all the way around. On my last set of the pattern. So this is the increase and then 7 single crochets to finish out the row. 5, 6. That's 7 stitches where my stitch marker is. And place it right back. Now row 9, you're just going to do a row of single crochets. Now I'll meet you back at row 10. So at the end of row 8, you should have a total of 54 stitches. Row 8 was the pattern of single crochets. Row 8 was a pattern of 1 increase and then 7 single crochets going all the way around. Row 9 is just single crochets going all the way around. I'll meet you back at row 10. Row 10, we're going to start with 4 single crochets. And we're going to do a pattern repeat. The pattern is 1 increase, 8 single crochets. We're going to do that for a total of 5 times. 1 increase, 8 single crochets. Okay, so that's 1 increase, 8 single crochets. That's 2 1 increase, that's 3 another increase, that's 4 last increase, then 8 single crochets, and then you will end the row with 1 more increase and then 4 single crochets, and that should put you back to where your stitch marker is. So 1 increase and then 4 single crochets. My last stitch is where my stitch marker is. I'll place it right back. So at the end of row 10, you should have 60 stitches. So we just finished row 10. Now, if you measure your head, if your head circumference is about 22 to 23 inches, you want to stop here at row 10, which is 60 stitches. If you have a larger head, say if you're wearing braids or you have a wig, your circumference is about 24 to 25 or 26 inches, you want to continue for 1 more row. And for that 11th row, you're going to do a pattern repeat going all the way around of 1 increase and then 9 single crochets. You're going to repeat that pattern going all the way around till you get back to your stitch marker. Okay, so in my case, I'm going to end at row 10. And for the next few rows, until you get to a measurement of 14 inches, you want to measure until you get to a total of 14 inches. So what I'm doing, I'm just folding my hat in half, line up the sides. I'm just going to measure from one side around and over to the next. So right now I'm at about 7 inches. You want to continue single crochets until you get to a total of 14 inches. So keep continuing to do your single crochets for a total of 14 inches once you fold your hat in half and you'll measure from one side around to the other. Okay, so just checking in. I've done a total of just 5 single crochet rows, and I just want to measure to see where I'm at. So I'm folding the hat in half, measuring from one side around to the other. So I'm at about 10 inches. So like I said, I want to go to 14. So in between here and now, you can actually size your hat. If you find the front, this is the front. Typically, you know, with hats, it has that little dip. You can put this on top of your head to see how it fits. If it fits pretty snug and it's a good fit, then you don't have to do anything. But if you feel like you may need to do a couple of more increases in between now and when you get to your 14 inches, do so now. And I would suggest that you would do a couple of increases per row and not all in the same row. So do a couple of increases here on opposite ends. So like if I wanted to increase a little bit, I would do an increase here, and then till I get to the other side, I'll do another increase here, just so it's even. So in between now and then, if you need to make it larger or smaller, you'll do a decrease. But measure here, and this is where you can fix any mistakes to make sure your hat fits pretty well. Also remember, crochet stretches, so you don't want to make it too big. Keep that in mind. So from here, I'm just going to keep going with my single crochet rows until I get to a total of 14 inches going from one side to the other. So I did a total of 12 rows of my single increases, and that gives me my 14 inches going from one side to the next. So now we are finished with the hat portion. Please try it on. Make sure it fits pretty snug. Like I said, crochet does stretch. You don't want it too big, or by the time you get finished, it's going to be too big and you've wasted your time. So now we are going to the brim. For this round, the brim row 1, we are going to do slip stitches. Now, I would suggest, highly suggest, that you make your slip stitches loose. If you have a tight tension, you can even go up a size to a size 6 or 7 millimeter hook, but you want to make your slip stitches loose as you possibly can, because around in the next row, we're going to go through these slip stitches. So you want to make sure that they are loose. And I normally have a pretty tight tension, so I am definitely making these as loose as I can. And I'm just going to continue this all the way around until I get back to my stitch marker. So I am at the end of row 1, which is the slip stitch row, the loose slip stitch row. This is my last slip stitch. Put my stitch marker right back because we still do need this. Okay, so row 2 for the brim. Now we are going to work inside our slip stitches. As you can see, the slip stitches put the stitch on the outside and not here. So now your loops are actually facing you as opposed to being on top. So we are going to work this pattern for row 2 inside the slip stitches. Now also, disclaimer, if you had to add extra rows in between here, the pattern is going to be off for you. And you may be off maybe 1, 2, 3, up to 4 stitches. That is okay. Still follow the pattern. And once you get towards the end, if you have any extra stitches, just place single crochets in those stitches and then pick back up on the pattern. So if you have any other extra stitches at the end, it's completely fine. No worries. So for row 2 of the brim, we're going to repeat this pattern, going all the way around till you get back to your stitch marker. That's going to be 1 increase and then 9 single crochets. Repeat that same pattern for until you get all the way around back to your stitch marker. So once again, we are going inside on the top of our slip stitches. This is going to be an increase. Then we're going to do 9 single crochets. You can go back to your regular tension also. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's my 9 single crochets. Then repeat the pattern, 1 increase, 9 single crochets till you get towards the end. Once again, like I said, if you did any other increases or decreases in this section, your count will be off, but that's okay. Any extra stitches, just place single crochets at the end. Now we are starting row 3. Row 3, we're going to do 5 single crochets. Then we are going to start our pattern repeat. We're going to do an increase and then 10 single crochets. Increase, 10 single crochets. We're going to do that pattern for 5 times. All the way around till we get to 5 stitches left. So this is our increase and then 10 single crochets in the next 10 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's our first one. Going to repeat the same pattern, 1 increase and then 10 single crochets. Sorry, so I do have a correction. So I did the pattern until it was 6 stitches left and not 5. So it's 6 stitches left. And then the next stitch, I'm going to do an increase and then a single crochet in the last 5 stitches. And that 5th stitch is where my stitch marker is. Okay, put my stitch marker back. So this is the end of row 3. Now as you can see, our brim is starting to flare out right along the sides. Okay, so row 4, we are going to do a pattern repeat of 1 increase and 1 increase and 11 single crochets. 1 increase, then 11 single crochets. I'm going to do that all the way around till you get back to your stitch marker. Another increase and then 11 single crochets. Continue this pattern all the way around to your stitch marker. This is the beginning of row 5. We are going to do 6 single crochets. Then we are going to start our pattern repeat of 1 increase and then 12 single crochets. I'm going to repeat that around until we're going to repeat that around for 5 times until you have 7 stitches left, and the next stitch will be your increase, and then you'll finish off with 6 single crochets to your stitch marker. So this is my increase, and then 12 single crochets. It's 11, 12, my increase, then 12 single crochets. Increase. All right, so my increase, then 12 single crochets. Six, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 7 stitches left. In the next stitch, I'm going to do an increase and then 6 single crochets to my stitch marker. Put your stitch marker back where it belongs. Okay, so as you can see, we are almost there. So row 6, we are going to do the pattern repeat of 1 increase, then 13 single crochets. That's going all the way around till you get to the end of your stitch marker. So this is 1 increase and 13 single crochets, 1 increase, 13 single crochets, all the way around back to the beginning. All right, now we are on row 7. Row 7, we're going to start with 7 single crochets and then your increase. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's my 7 single crochets. I'm going to do an increase and then repeat the pattern of increase, 14 single crochets, increase, 14 single crochets until you have 8 stitches left. The next stitch will be your increase, and then you'll finish off with your 7 single crochets. Okay, I just did my last set of 14 single crochets. The next one I'm going to do an increase, then a single crochet in the last 7 stitches. And my last stitch is where my stitch marker is. Oops. I hope you've been remembering to put your stitch marker back, because it was one time where I just kept going round and round and didn't know where I was. I had to frog it, and I was so upset because I got pretty far until I realized how far I went without my stitch marker. So you can see our brim is getting wider. Now, the next few rows are optional. It's completely up to you, depending on how wide you want your brim. This would be a nice size for a fedora hat. To finish this size off, I will just do another 1 row of single crochet going all the way around, and then you can disconnect your yarn and you'll be finished. And if you wanted to do a cowboy hat style, if you want it larger, we can flip the brim up, or however you want to do it, you will continue on with this pattern. But as far as for the fedora size, I would end at row 7 with the increases, and then finish off for row 8 with a single row of your single crochets. But like I said, if you want it larger, you can continue on with the pattern until you like it, till you like the size. And your very last row will be just a single crochet, because you don't want these indents where you can see where you did your increases. So the rest is up to you. If not, we can keep going. Okay, so this is the portion where we are adding, this is if you want to, optional, if you want to add a wire to the end of your brim, so just to make it a little bit more sturdy, or if you were doing the cowboy hat and you wanted to bend the edges up, this will allow it to hold its shape. So this is how you would attach your floral wire to the brim of your hat. So for one, you want to take enough length that goes around the brim of your hat. So it doesn't have to be exact, because I just want to cut off any excess that I need. So I'm just going to take this until I get back to the beginning. I'm just going to cut right here for now. I'm going to take the 2 ends, and I'm just going to just twist it just so that they will hold each other and it won't come apart. Basically, I'm not securing them right now, because we're going to secure it once we go all the way around the brim of the hat. Okay, so on the opposite end where you secured it, we're going to start here. So this is going to go on the underside of your brim, and we are going to attach it with a single row. This is your last row of crochet once you get finished with your increases. So this is the last row, and we're just going to continue around. We're going to single crochet. I'm going to single crochet around the wire. And it is a little tricky. It gets a little wompy. It's weird to hold. It feels weird to me. So if it feels weird to me, I'm sure it's going to feel weird to you as well. So we're just going to do single crochets going around with the wire in between. Now, ideally, I would not use a black wire, but I'm using a black wire just to show you how I'm attaching it to my last row of single crochets. So take your time with this and just continue all the way around, crocheting over the wire. So keep going. I'm going to show you what happens and how to finish it off when you get around to the end. Okay? So I have about maybe 5 stitches left. So what I did was I measured how much more wire I needed to finish off. And you also want to make sure when you put your brim down that it's nice and flat, because if not, then it will continue to roll up. And I just twisted the edges on each side. So from here, I am going to just crochet around the end parts. And also I would suggest to use some pliers or something, like if you have you know, it does kind of hurt a little bit trying to twist the wire. So if you have any pliers or something that will help you get those wires twisted, please do so. Please do not hurt yourself or cut yourself, because you definitely can. So I have completely covered the wire. I mean, of course, on this side is black, so you do see it. Normally I would have used a white wire with the yarn. And once I cover it, I'm going to end my row with a slip stitch. Cut off any excess, tie your knot, and you are finished. And you will just weave in your ends. But here's your hat. Of course, you want to straighten out your edges. Then once you put it on, of course, you can shape it to your liking. And what I like about the brim is if you wanted to flip up one side of your hat, kind of like the LL Cool J, how he used to do it, you can. But I like that it is completely bendable and it also holds its shape.